bronze medalists. Anna Lekaci, Victoria Schwarz from Austria.
Bronzanu medalju osvojile su Anna Lekaci i Victoria Schwarz iz Austrije.
The silver medalists, Joe Britton-Jones and Jamie Roberts, Australia.
Srebrnu medalju osvojile su Joe Britton-Jones i Jamie Roberts, Australija.
And finally, the gold medalists, Joana Vasconcelos, Francisca Laia from Portugal.
Zlatnu medalju osvojili su Joana Vasconcelos i Francisca Laia iz Portugala.
Ladies and gentlemen, your medalists in women's 200-meter K2 event.
Dame i gospodo, pozdravimo aplauzom osvajačice medalje u disciplini K2 200 metara u ženskoj konkurenciji.
In about an hour's time, when we have the finale of the live coverage, is going to be the K4 races, which we all look forward to. We saw a new world's best time last weekend from the Germans, so it's going to be really competitive. The Serbs looked absolutely cruising it with Marko Novakovic taking his place in power, and it looks like it's going to be really, really good. So the program moves on. The events we've had so far are the K2 200 women, C2 200 women, and C1 200 men. Yet to have the confirmed official results there. The next race rather, is going to be the K1 200 women, and that's something that Brits have an interest in. It's going to be a cracking race.
Yes, absolutely. We've got Jessica Walker in there in lane 7.
She's been around forever, hasn't she, since she was 12 in the national team?
It seems like that, yes. She's a triple Olympian, having been to Beijing, London, and then Rio as well. So for a girl, a fairly young girl, she's got a hell of a lot of experience. She's going to need all of that today, I'd say, in this field. Got Guyot, Stencils, Starovic in the middle there.
Starovic is actually quite interesting because today is a shoot-off, not the right word obviously, but Nikola Moldovan and Milica Starovic, whoever wins this race will have the Serbian position in the Europeans, which are taking place in Bulgaria in mid-July. They've had an internal trial, and that was won by Starovic. Moldovan, she was 6th in Szeged last week, so it was 1-1, and this is the decider. So there's an internal battle which adds a bit of spice. That's lanes 1 and 4. We are seeing a bit of protection in lane number 1.
Yes, I'd say it was a little bit earlier, it was really quite a strong side wind, but then just the last couple of minutes, I'd say that's actually turning around now to be a little bit more of an even headwind across the field. Probably still maybe favouring that lane 1 a tiny bit.
Well, see, they'll take what advantage they can. You're looking at the lineup. You can see the athletes tuning out. They'll be called with 1 minute to go. Sarah Guyot from France, she's been on top of the game for the last few years, but let's go through them one at a time. It's Nikola Moldovan, one of the Moldovan sisters. Marta Voltakiewicz had 5 months off after the Olympics. She's a perpetual medalist for many, many years in the sprint events from Poland. Starovic been in the team boats as well. Lane 6 is Lina Stencil. She's actually going for a whole 3 events this weekend. She didn't really try that much in the K2 500 yesterday, but pushing herself all the way. Clearly she was 7th at the Olympic Games, 5th last week. Jess Walker, we've just talked about her. Teresa Portela is an absolute flyer. I expect her to be maybe the first out of the blocks. And Ivana Mladkova from Slovakia. There's Milica Starovic. As I say, this is a really a hugely important race. third of the World Cups. See, they're on the start blocks. John Schofield and myself. John, by the way, has reached the final last weekend in Szeged. You have a bit of a wrist worry this weekend.
Yeah, I came back from injury maybe a tiny bit too quickly, and it was my back that I tore a muscle in, but then that somehow affected my wrist, which has kept me out this weekend, unfortunately.
But K1 200 meters women's final, Belgrade, and they are off as per normal. Teresa Portela in lane number 8 is onto an absolute flyer. Jess Walker has a good start as well.
Yeah, so if she gets off the line, then she's got a sniff of the result there. She's really been working on that.
Marta Voltkiewicz at the top of your picture with the blonde hair. She really has a lot of form. Linnea Stencils we see with the yellow top, also looking very strong as we speak at the moment. We're expecting Fasegerd to come through.
That's Linnea is looking really long with her stroke there, which is what you want. She's got to keep it going for the last 50 meters now.
But if you look at it, Marta Voltkiewicz is going to power through. She's going to take over from Spela Ponomarenko-Janic, but it looks like it's going to be head and head. Is it going to be Linnea Stencils?
Oh, wow. That's too close to call for me.
Well, we are looking at either Spela Ponomarenko-Janic or Leah Stencils. As you say, Leah in the midsection. If you can have a midsection of a 200-meter race, she really looked to put forward the power.
Yeah, she looks smooth, and she's really progressed on over the last winter. We saw her training out in Seville, and she was really pushing herself to the limit out there, and it's nice to see it kind of paying off. This Jess was solid in that race as well then, but just a tiny bit off the medals.
Keep you updated as soon as you have them. We have the we're actually sitting about 10 meters before the finishing line, so the angle is not perfect. We can't call it to the last centimeter, but it was certainly Linnea Stencils and Spela Ponomarenko-Janic who were fighting for the first place.
Yeah.
Probably going to go down to hundreds, if not the odd tenth.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. I'd say Marta was in there as well for the lunge. It's a very hard finish line to spot here. There's basically 20 meters gap from the last of the normal line of boys to the finish line, and there's a couple of some square boys around there and these orange ones, and it's almost everyone's guess when you're on the water as to exactly where the line's going to be.
I have the unofficial results, which we'll look at anyway, and they're giving it to Linnea Stencils in 41.020. And 0.05 of a second behind was Spela Janic, with Marta Voltkiewicz coming in third. So Aguyo, Luka Starovic, which means she takes the place for the Europeans. For Sabia, Jessica Walker, Nicolina, Ivana, and Teresa Portela, after a fast start, was probably run out of steam.
Yeah, she always kind of sets out there. She's got the power to get off the line, and then everyone has to catch her. And today it looks like most of them did manage to do that. But wow, what exciting and tight racing.
The time, 41.
Yeah, I mean, it's slow conditions out there. Like I say, the wind's veering between a side wind and a headwind. There's certainly not much helping them there today. So those last few meters would have hurt. And that'll be a first World Cup win then for Linnea as well. She'll be absolutely over the moon with that, I'm sure, as will the rest of the Swedish team. Lisa
Carrington not competing in the K1 200 this early season.
Yep,
hello, if you're listening from New Zealand, and the whole of the team, which were really impressive in every extent, from the K1 200, 500, K2 500, K2 200, K4. They pretty much had a winner or medalist in every field, so well done there.
Yeah, they could put out different combinations in every event and still be in with a sniff of the win, which is incredibly impressive. The program they built up there in New Zealand and the women's squad over the last few years is just going from strength to strength.
We're looking now at the next event, switching from kayaks to canoes, and this in its own way is going to be equally interesting. It's theoretically going to be in the Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo. If you look at the lineup, we do have the fastest ladies in the planet, Laurence Vincent Lepoint. Last weekend she recorded 45.842. So she's obviously the athlete to look out for. However, we do have Elina Nazarova from Belarus, who we didn't know much about, but she took the field apart yesterday in the C1 500. It was just 0.8 of a second off the world's fastest time, and she put the others very much in a place. She's slowing up over the line. She could have gone a second faster. Here she is with her interesting style. Belarus, they really did well. They come back onto the international scene yesterday for the first time. Urania won the 1,000 meters. Volokodenska won the 500 meters K1. Here we have Dorota Borowska. She came first in the C1 200 meters in Montemor last year. Yulia Tsoy, she was 4th last week in the C2 200 meters. So I think all action is Vera Bala, who took 4 gold medals in Montemor and took a couple of gold medals. She was 2nd in the C2, but here they are paddling away, and it looks like France have got a fast start. This is Anaïs Catlet, who we don't know much about on an international level, but all eyes are going to be very much on lanes 3 and lanes 6 and 7. We look out for the very, very long stroke of the blonde Canadian, who last week she said it's back time. Last year she had studies and she had injuries, and so she didn't perform at her highest level, but this year very much so. She has a much longer stroke rate than all the other competitors, and coming into the halfway ride, the breeze actually dropped completely. It looks very, very flat. It's Kinko Tasic at the top of your picture. Elena Nazarova, who we saw win yesterday, she's really making a massive burst, and it's Laurence Vincent-Lepoint for Canada also putting it in. So it's a case of who's going to cross the line first. It looks like Laurence Vincent-Lepoint has just outreached Elena Nazarova, who took the gold yesterday. If that's the case, she's doubled up. And there we have Laurence from Canada. If you're joining us from Canada, welcome. Good way to start. They're having a great tour. They had internal trials, so they didn't turn up to Montemor, but last week they put some good results forward, and really it pays off the investment they put forward in the last few years. Laurence first appeared winning the gold medal in the 2010 World Championships, and the hard work is really paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. She was looking really strong there with that long stroke, as you said. I almost thought for a second there that she'd lost it on the line, almost stopping a tiny bit too early, but she had the speed to take her through. And then really impressive there for the Belarusian athlete as well.
Well, they're putting it down, is it lane 3? Yeah. For my money, she came over second. Anyway, we'll see the official timing results. But a good weekend's work for someone that we don't really know on the international scene.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Belarusian team yesterday were absolutely on fire, and that seems to have transferred to their women's C1 program as well. It's good to see this event going from strength to strength. It's a pretty competitive final there. Every year it seems to be a little bit tougher.
Yeah, but I was not in control. I like being in control.
That's great, having the microphone. What they're doing is they're alternating it. So we had it in Montemor last year, and so the athletes actually don't know. It's Laurence Vincent-Lepoint, 48, quite slow for Canada. Takes it from Kisko Takic, apparently, and Camille Lebourg. I don't know what's happened to Elena Nazarova, because it looked like in the naked eye that she was well ahead of the 5th position. I guess it's the official result. I don't understand that, but we'll have to have a look at it later. Anyway, no doubt about Laurence Vincent-Lepoint was ahead in the midpoint. Looks like she was first across the line.
Yeah, and she has the experience as well there that I guess counts on when the conditions are tiny bit tricky like this. She's been at the top of the tree of women's C1 for a long time now.
And I don't know if you picked up on the microphone listening at home or wherever you are on the planet. The microphone is on the pontoon where she actually gets out for the boat control. She said, "I didn't feel in control. I like being in control." Now, you were in the final last weekend, and in the semi-finals, it was almost like you were back to your old days in wild water. It was like a ploughed field almost in Szeged.
Yeah, those were the conditions for me. We had a strong tailwind and some good waves out there, so I was just out there to enjoy myself and see if I could pick my way through the waves, which I just about managed to do.
Here's your compatriot, mate, and often medal winner.
Yeah, me and Liam have been partners in the K2 since 2010.
There's a cracking field coming over here. It's Carlos Garote, he from Spain. He often medals, and recently we've seen him flying out of the blocks.
Yeah, I think you know, after the Spanish program seems to be improving rapidly, and that internal competition, when you've got guys like Saul and Christian Toro, that seems to have transferred across the rest of the squad. So we've now got Arevalo and Garote in here. both with a shout of a medal, I'd say.
Maxime Beaumont, a word about him. He's ever present.
Oh, he's an unreal paddler. Just strength across every discipline, all the distances, 1,500 and 200, consistent. You know, he's one of the top guys in the world in paddle sport, I'd say.
We're probably going to get the close images of lane number 1, Marko Doksovilovic, who's actually taken the Serbian place. Lane number 2 is Peter Manning. Great to see him back, but it looks like it's Maxime Beaumont in the middle who has a good start.
He's great starts at the moment. Yeah, absolutely great starts from Maxime. He seems to time it out of the bucket really well. We've got Marko Novakovic, former European champion, the biggest arms in the sport. Absolutely powering now in front of his home crowd. As Liam's looking good, actually looking strong, controlled. You've got to stay calm on slow conditions like this.
Coming into the last 40 metres, and it is neck and neck. It looks like Maxime Beaumont, Liam Heath are fighting for the victory, as they ever do.
Wow, yeah, it looks like a similar top 3, top 4 to last weekend with Garote, Marko from Serbia, and Maxime all in there with a lunge for the line.
I mentioned this before, but I don't think that Maxime Beaumont has digested the last 50 metres in Rio yet.
No, I mean, that's having someone paddle past you at the towards the end of the Olympics is something I can sympathise with. It does hurt. So they're calling it for Liam there.
Well, if that is the case, he's really taken all the pressure on his shoulders to... I guess it hasn't been easy with the changes of training regimes and distances and coaches and all sorts of stuff, but what an athlete.
He is. He's just, I mean, he has the best combination of attributes you need for K1 200s. He's strong, he's light, and he's consistent. And, you know, when you have that combination to the level that he does, it's going to be hard to beat.
And how, on a personal basis, as he often says, he's a reserved person, is he enjoying the media attention or just accepting it as part of the job?
Oh, no, he enjoys it as well. You know, he kind of makes sure that's really well balanced with training and performance, with what he's really about. So he does keep a fairly low profile, but I'd say he enjoys it as well. It's once in a lifetime experience to be Olympic gold medalist.
And keep it going. I'm not sure anyone else has managed to take the gold in Rio and push it forward, winning the first 2, the only 2 World Cups he's competing afterwards.
Yeah, well, so we're fingers crossed that he won that one there as well. We're still on the provisional results, and
Doksovilovic is never timid, is he?
No. He'll make you think he's won it even if he hasn't. Yeah, no, he's a colourful character, nice guy, and yeah, really a strong paddler. So it's actually quite nice to see him getting back towards the top of the world in that K1, I'd say.
And he always knows where the cameras are.
Yeah, he looks good on them as well.
Well, there's Liam. So we can pick up what they say.
He seems happy, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I mean, winning that first World Cup since the Olympics in Szeged last weekend was massive for him. Like you're saying, that's not many Olympic gold medalists were able to go and do that in the same event that they won the gold in Rio. So that is fairly impressive in its own right.
How about his start? Because last week, from an amateur point of view, his start was rubbish last week.
I mean, the start itself was okay. It's just the timing of when he actually started. If you start a fraction of a second behind the rest of the guys, you're going to have a lot of catching up to do. He seems to be getting the timing a little bit better this weekend. He's aware that, you know, everyone else in the world, they're too good. You can't do that every single time and expect to win. So he's been working on that timing.
And any possibility ever you do come back together?
Oh, sure. We've been training in the K2 as well. It's good speed work for K1. If you jump in the K2, it takes you over that K1 speed a little bit. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on the events this year and see if we can race somewhere.
Keep an eye on the events. Excellent stuff. So the second ceremony they're going to be looking at is the C2 200 women. Well, they've given it to Maxime Beaumont.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what is it? A 100th?
Yes.
A 100th between Maxime and Liam, apparently. Maxime getting a little bit of revenge for Rio, or a little bit of a start of that, and then Garote in 3rd, the same as last weekend. And then I think Marko was 4th again last weekend. So
that's great.
These guys are showing their consistency, those top few.
Well, there's a battle going on between Liam Heath, Maxime Beaumont, and you can see on your screen now 1/100th of a second between the two of them. Yeah,
and they're not far back, just 2/10 for Carlos as well. So he's going to be going to be pretty happy with those gaps, I'd suggest.
Wow.
And then the second Spanish guy and fifth again, a lot of consistency.
Just shows it's a dangerous game when I'm calling who's out there before the official results come through.
Absolutely, these days, you know, you saw in the women's and the men's 200 meters there that it's pretty much too close to call by eye from a distance.
Well, from a neutral, it's good to see it keeps it interesting. It'll keep Liam, who has the confidence, I guess, of winning the goal last weekend, and Maxime, that it's not a lost cause. He's actually, Maxime Beaumont this weekend is not going in the K1. He's actually going to go and buckle down in the, I think he's in third place in the K4.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much every K4 in the world would take Maxime in their boat. So it's going to be interesting to see how that bolsters the French performance compared to last weekend, swapping Berger for Beaumont.
But it's turning out some fascinating combinations. We do see Marko Novakovic from Serbia, who bench presses 200 kilograms, his team the other day.
Does he?
Yeah.
I can believe that.
I think that's enough, he said. He's actually going to be in the K4. We have Ronnie Rao, Leibischer, Lemke and Rentschmidt, who 1:18. Anyway, let's go back to what we're seeing in front of our screen. This is the reward ceremony for the women's C2 200 meters, coming over the line in difficult conditions in 45 seconds. Spain.
Yeah, yet another medal for the Spanish this weekend. You know, a program that just seems to be firing on all cylinders.
Yes, because traditionally they had a reputation of, because they can train in favourable conditions most of the year, being really, really good at the start and tailing off a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've also just got such a massive club structure and massive history of paddling. It feels like it's only a matter of time till they, you know, harness that back into consistent world-class results.
And obviously with the Olympics, with Sal Carriato taking a equal bronze and a gold with Doros, Marcus Waltz taking the gold. It adds a bit of confidence, I suppose, as you guys are good examples in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. When you see someone doing that from your country, from your club, from your training group, it just makes you realise it really is within reach.
So Canada, well done. They're switching the combinations this week. They have a really young, dynamic team out here this year. Most things have changed about Canada, the management structure, a lot of new faces in the athletes, some old faces still back. And Mark de Jong, he, if you're watching, hello, I've been informed that you're taking the year out, but you're still training. And maybe next year we'll see how things go. So a great champion is hopefully watching the progress of the other athletes.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And these C2 or the canoe event's such a big history in Canada.
And finally, the gold medalists. Belarus.
And finally, the gold medalist, it is Klima Mrvancha from Belarus, taking yet another victory. They took 4 victories yesterday. 3, sorry, yesterday, and another one today. So it's really showing there's this great strength of depth in this squad that we haven't seen for various reasons for the last few months.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a world-class C2 out there and then having 2 different girls in the final of the C1 200 shows that they're not just a program that's kind of relying on one star performer. They're producing good female canoe paddlers across the board.
Ladies and gentlemen, your medalists in women's C2 200 meters.
So the C2 200 meters is not an Olympic program, but it certainly sets up the field, and the strength and depth is coming through.
Absolutely, and you need these events to stay around, so you can run a program for 200 meters, so you can afford to kind of support athletes who maybe won't be in your world champs C1 or K1 squad, but they've still got somewhere else to race on the world stage.
So it's all to do with tough decisions that had to be made to have parity between men and women going forward in the sport for the Olympics, which, for good or bad or indifferent, drives the sport. The next event is going to be the K2 Women 500. The images that you're seeing are as good as you get. I have been informed, however, due to technical difficulties, the first few meters will not be seen of the K2 500 meters. So we'll put our binoculars on and we'll have a look and see who's coming into it. I've been informed also that the last few hundred meters will be seen, and it's going to be a really interesting combination. The New Zealanders, for the luck of everyone else, are not in this weekend.
Yeah.
But there's some good combinations, some young combinations, and fascinating. Franziska Weber and Tina Dietze, in their own reckoning, they had an off weekend last weekend. They're London champions, vice champions in Rio, and top paddlers, but it just didn't go right last weekend. They came fourth, which I think the first time ever I could see them competing and not being on the podium. They had looked good so far. Belgium, which is Lizzie Borgst and Hermine Peters, who were having a shoot-off yesterday for who has the place in the Europeans. The Belgians putting forward a really good program at the moment. They're both just graduated, and Hermine Peters is the older sister, rather, of Arthur.
Yeah, all the Belgians having a pretty solid weekend, I'd say, but it's great to see Weber and Dietz you know, back in a boat together, and they look, I'd say, for my money, a little bit sharper this weekend than last.
We have to see. Also, the ABs are in form fifth last week. Who am I talking about? Alicia Bull and Alice Burnett.
Yeah, and they've got lane 3, which is maybe the slightly better side at the moment. As we look up the course, the water on that side looks a little bit flatter, so that could play into their hands again.
Every obviously had a cracking experience in Rio, perhaps surprised many people by taking the Rio slot and made the final in there. And Alice Burnett, she's actually made her first K1 500 final, so they're really moving ahead. Alicia Bull won the B final. Interesting to see how they're going to go in the K4. Ali Bull's not going in the K4, and I don't know if anyone can guess why. I've been informed that she has her final very important firefighting exams the same day as it's programmed to be in the World Championships. So
wow.
She's going back to Australia.
Yeah,
as their career goes on.
So many athletes balancing different aspects of their life. I'm sure the Australians would like to have her back in the boat the following year, though.
Well, 21 years old, surf life-saving, and looking good. Here we're going to hopefully have the lineup coming forward. Yes, we are. Fritz and Krankemann, two new names on the international scene. Lahatch, Anna, and Victoria Swartz, who were in the K2 200, and how they recovered.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a whole lot of time to recover, and they really gave it some guns in that 200-meter race, absolutely.
And medals, so I suppose that makes you feel a bit better, does it?
Yes, absolutely. You feel a lot less pain when you cross the line, and you figure you're in the top 3. And they're in lane 2, so they've probably got one of the kind of lanes, I suggest.
Bull, Burnett, part of a bit of a new look Australian team, building for the future. Got Billy Bain coming up a little bit later. There are the ladies we've been talking about. Franziska Weber in the front, Tina Dietze in the back. Belgiums that we've already mentioned.
Oh yeah, another strong Serbian crew. They're racing over on the grandstand side, so they're going to hear the home crowd as they come past, which is always a nice feeling as you're starting to suffer at the end of the race.
Anna Polacka, Beata Mikolajczyk. Anna Polacka was in the running to have the Rio spot for the 500 meters, didn't quite make it in the end. And Beata Mikolajczyk, probably one of the top paddlers in Poland of all time, and certainly a great servant for this sport.
Yeah, I mean, she's been in so many strong K4s. A really power-based paddler, I'd say, so she's going to shift that boat off the line.
Well, they do have some initial long-range cameras, and clearly they're concentrating on Dostanovic and Relic, who are the Serbian, as it's Serbian TV are producing these images this weekend, so they have pretty much the right to do what they like. Spain, we haven't mentioned them yet, Moisen and Pelaj in lane number 9. We'll have to look down, see if we have any sort of perspective of how it works. John, you're a bit of a water expert. Can you see anything yet, or is it just too early?
It's too early for me. I can't figure it out from here, but the Serbians look like they're paddling well. There's obviously a big history of K2 with the Moldovan sisters, and for my money, they look technically very strong, using a lot of their body and good timing as well.
If you see there, the details come through of the first split, so in lane number 4, it is in your picture, the Germans look to have certainly ahead of the first split, a little bit ahead of the Australians in lane number 3, as you can see. Coming down to the halfway, or over the halfway mark now, it looks like the Germans in the naked eye are putting forward a cracking race, with Poland also in there, and they have the pedigree.
Yeah, and the German strokes looking really long and strong, as is their way. Power coming from behind, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Australians can hunt them down a little bit in these last few metres.
So far, coming into the last 60 metres, it's Germany have really taken this race apart, with Poland and Australia in for a fight for a medal.
It's all in a line for third place.
No doubt about who's going to take the gold. Germany gold, Poland silver, and finally it looks like Belgium take the bronze medal.
Yeah, between Belgium and Australia was super close there. It'll be you know, who really committed all the way to the line that's going to make the difference there. But yeah, Weber and Dietz back on form. It's really nice to see.
Maybe from what you're saying, I was a bit confused yesterday, because there seemed to be more than one, especially in the C1 Women 500. She actually pulled up about 5 metres before the line.
Yeah.
And still cruised over to win. But I wonder why there's such a big gap. I guess it's in the rules.
I haven't seen it like this before. Typically, you'd have 10 metres to go, boy. So once you know you've gone past that, you're starting to get within the range where it's worth lunging. But with the 20 metres gap, it's going to be really hard to tell.
But no doubt about it, you said their technique's looking good.
It is, yeah. The Germans have this, you know, they really focus on keeping drive all the way through the stroke, so they catch far in front of them, but then pull back quite a long way as well. So it has this lovely sort of loping kind of style, I'd say. And you'll see that again in the men's K4 later. They'll be stroking at very high stroke rates, but the languid kind of nature of it will make it look like it's actually much slower than it is.
That poetry coming out of your mouths there, that's great.
It's poetry in motion when you watch that K4. It's nice to see maybe a slightly different crew on the podium there with the Belgians making it.
Yeah, they've really stepped up. Hermine took this silver. Peters took the bronze, yesterday in the K1 500 metres.
There we go, they're giving second to Poland.
Yes, and Belgium take first. So here you go, 142, Weber, Dietz, Polaska, Mikolajczyk, Werkson, Peters are the medalists, with Bull and Burnett just missing out this time. They keep, every weekend they go further up the medal table.
I guess I don't know if they're going to go back to Australia now and then prepare for the Worlds, or they're going to stay in Europe, but they know they've got a tiny bit of work to do, but I'd say they're in the game.
I think the boys are going back to their base for a couple of weeks, I believe.
Okay, in Zolnok.
Yeah, that's what Kenny was saying. I have to confirm it.
Yeah, make the most of the European summer. We're having a nice one out here in Belgrade at the moment. Beautiful conditions for paddling and training.
Next major event for your diary, we've come to the third World Cup final, and then it's on to the European Championships in Plovdiv in Bulgaria from July the 14th to the 16th, and the most important event in the sprint calendar this year is going to be in Račići in the Czech Republic from the 23rd to the 27th of August. This is going to be the ceremony. You can see them, well, you can't see them there. Here you go, coming in front of the grandstand, which the packed out bit is the bit under the shade. You can't actually see. You're seeing about 100 meters along. That's why it looks like it's fairly sparse. But the actual grandstand is fairly busy. This is the C2 100 men. And this is where Martin Fuchs, although he didn't take the gold medal this time, he's keeping his absolutely remarkable season going. He already has 4 goals out of the season.
That was a very tight finish to that men's C1 event. I thought we'd called the Iranian as winning it when we initially saw that.
The medals will be presented by Stevan Knežević, President of Canoe Federation of Vojvodina and a member of the organizational committee of Canoe Sprint World Cup in Belgrade.
So they're having a selection of dignitaries honouring the prize givers this weekend. It's good to see. From all sorts of federations, all sorts of sports.
The bronze medalists.
Where he stepped down from last weekend, Henrikas Justas. Great tradition of sprinting in Lithuania, takes the bronze medal. It just shows how difficult it is to spot them coming over the line. We had 6 athletes in a row with 20 meters to go.
Yeah, we had the Iranian coaches and athletes running up and down the bank here celebrating, which threw us up a little bit.
Maybe celebrating a silver medal, because it's not a bad thing as level.
Absolutely, no, it's not. I don't know if that's is that career best result there.
Yes, it will be. So Adel Mojolale Hadda.
That was really good to see. Shows truly
Artem Koza.
Okay, so we did go to Belarus. Yeah, I was a bit confused about that. Fuchs did really well, you know, getting that win from lane 8, I'd say today. We're sat kind of just across from it, and there's pretty significant kind of side wind rippling across there during the race. Looks a little bit bumpier, so it shows what a good technical paddler he is to be able to perform in those conditions.
Fuchs came through in the last 50 metres. Apologies for that. We thought or I rather thought that the Iranian was up there, but it turns out he wasn't.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to see on the screen here in the glare of the Belgrade sun today.
Martin Fuchs, gold 200, gold 1,000 in Montibor. He took the gold in the 1,000 in Szeged, and in Belgrade, gold 1,000, gold 200. Not bad, huh?
It's an incredible athlete. From what I gather from my kind of canoe colleagues, he's considered a real technician of the sport. You know, in the tradition of Martin Doctor, he really refined his stroke and makes the most of his physicality.
Doctor obviously won in 96. Martin Fuchs's father was also involved in 96 Atlantic Games. Grandfather was involved as well. And younger brother Peter is back home. I believe he has some trials this weekend, so he couldn't join Martin in the C2 500 where they're progressing. And it looks like in the C2 1000 for Tokyo, that could be a brotherly combination. We had the Bogdanoviches, one of them is still competing, the other one's taken up a job in government. From Belarus, of course, another famous brothers who competed on the international scale.
Yeah, there are two big lads in that C2.
Let's see, what do we have for ourselves now?
Yeah, we're back to the 500 meters events.
Do you train for this? Can you do this?
Not these days.
So you could when you were younger, or maybe later?
I was okay for the K2 500 meters. Made a world's final in that with Ben Brown, but that was very much a case of, you know, I was good off the line. It was always a case of being able to extend my endurance to be able to cope with that extra distance. So yeah, I was one of the guys that considered myself lucky that the 200 meters came along at the right time.
So who do we spot in the K1 500 meters? Some of the experienced watchers are saying that Joseph Dostal, who won last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look past him, isn't it?
But he's quite heavy, and he hated the tailwind. So with a bit of a breeze against him, maybe something to prove. Rennie Holton Poulsen has been there or thereabouts really well. He came 4th in Szeged last weekend. He maybe also has something to prove. Who else stands out?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, René seems to be coming from strength to strength. I believe he didn't start off the season so strongly in his domestic racing, but each round of the World Cup he seems to be a little bit better.
Rennie last weekend, his second stroke, he slipped his hand on the paddle.
Wow.
As he was telling me afterwards, so he had to do something else. Sorry, I'm cutting you off here.
No, that's...
Roy Rodriguez, this season he's really
He's on fire, isn't he? Yeah, he seems to be one of those guys, you know, I don't think he went to the Olympics, but absolutely hammered his training over the winter. and has come back with a point to prove. And maybe it's that thing you were saying about you've seen your squad members perform at the top level, has given him that just extra little bit of confidence to also be fighting for the podiums.
Billy Bain, the most laid-back, modest athlete on the planet, is really starting to come through.
Yeah, we raced in a relay actually in Australia with Billy when he was nothing but a kid, and you could tell even then that he had quite a lot of talent to himself.
I was saying we do some questions. How do you celebrate when you win? And he's like, I don't win much, mate.
Hopefully he'll start to get that problem sometime
The other
soon.
question we asked him last weekend was, why were you leading in the semi-final of the 500? Well, I wanted to be on TV for my parents. There's no chance of winning.
Suppose he didn't stop and wave.
Well, Lars Ulvad, Norwegian team are changing a bit. We now have Erik Vos Larsen, who's come back to his passion, and he's directing the teams who expect there to come forward strength and strength. Mikita Bokhout, know much about him?
No, I'm afraid I don't, no. I'm sure to make the Belarusian team is tough, so again, on the other side of lane 2, I wouldn't discount him.
Augustin Venice, it's good to see Argentina putting, again, quite a few competitors in quite a few events, making finals as well.
They've got a really, really strong team. It seems like quite a young team, a bit of a mixture of experience and youth. And then just looking at this final, we've got good coverage from South America, Australasia, and then the big man in the middle there, over 200 centimeters. He's got all the Dostal style. It's going to be hard to look past him, I'd say, in this headwind. Towards the end, he's going to be going like a freight train.
Rodriguez, who we mentioned, I believe he trains by himself in Madrid, so he doesn't make himself not available for the team boats. Maybe changes that.
Yeah, I mean, they might think twice after seeing his results this weekend. And then, big Arthur Peters as well. It's great seeing Belgium having strength in the long-distance K1 events, and then Dylan Bard as well in the 200 meters.
And Arthur Peters, we've seen his sister on the in the water and winning medals.
That might give him a bit of inspiration to not let her be the only Peters coming away with the medal this weekend.
Yeah.
And they're off.
500 meters final. First to show is, it looked like Mamnov in lane number 9 was fast away. Rodriguez in your picture.
Really long, relaxed reach from Rodriguez there. That's really nice and nice to see. And then
3 great champions in a row. Dostal, René
turning away in the background. And then René with his slightly more unique technique, but it really works for him, and he won't be slowing down in this event at all. He's saying he's struggling to find a little bit of speed at the moment, but come the end of the race, his 1,000-meter endurance will really help.
Dostal's not struggling to find speed. If you see in lane number 5, he's taken a significant lead in over 50 meters. He's really pushed it out. Billy Bain also in the yellow boat in lane number 8 is looking to really do something quite special today. He was slightly back half a second off the pace, but here is big Joseph Dostal.
You can see he barely fits in the boat there. His knees are up so high.
Apparently, was it last week he had to have an even bigger boat?
Yeah, you would need that in those waves. Yeah, I changed my setup for those conditions as well.
Coming into 150 meters to go, and Dostal is leading it out, controlling the race.
It's a bit of a line though for 2nd and 3rd place. Still anyone's. Few people over there on the calmer side, still going well.
Looks like lane number 4, René Holten-Poulsen, is coming back at Dostal. These are the 2 athletes who are not tying up, they're pushing forward.
Yeah,
with
René.
60 meters to go, it's Dostal now accelerating away, but it's going to be Dostal taking it clearly. René Holten-Poulsen slowing up with Rodriguez. Again, it's a similar lineup we've seen many times so far. Very impressive from Joseph Dostal.
Really impressive. He makes that, it's still a speed event, the 500 meters K1, but he makes it look so relaxed and with his stroke rate lower than everyone else's, just churning along. And it's a shame we saw Billy Bain with a good start there, but he dropped back in the last few meters. I think maybe the choppy water on this side didn't help him.
So thanks for the advice from the experts that did tell us that Dostal was in with a shout, and he really came through strongly.
Yeah, he certainly did. I mean, this is a shame it's not an an Olympic event because it's such an exciting race to watch always, and I'm sure Dostal will be eating it up at the games.
To be fair, we could have 22 Olympic events.
We could. I mean, the sport has that depth, and then, to be honest, paddle sport generally, if you go outside of sprint, canoe polo, it's such a depth to this sport. It's one of the things I like about it. It's just a shame we're always going to have to condense our Olympic program to such a small subset of the sport.
And yes, everyone has their own views. It is what it is, however. For the next 10 minutes, we're going to have a bit of a change of expert. Johnny Schofield stepping to one side. Don't go away, though, please. We need you back for the K4. And Ian Ross is coming into place. Ian, put your headsets on, please. Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for coming in at very, very short notice, just to give us a bit of your expertise. It's been quite an interesting programme out. The wind is slightly different from yesterday. We're looking now for the C2 men 500 that's going to be starting. Is it going to be starting straight away? No, we're going to have a bit of a pause, first of all, because we're going to have a medal ceremony. It's going to be the K1 200 women, I say. Have you been watching the first few races? What are your first opinions?
Well, everyone, it's a little different today because of the big headwind, but so some of the bigger people are going to have a little bit of advantage, but as we just saw with Dostal, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard racing today, doing such a fast race and such a big headwind.
You'd call it quite a big headwind?
Well, I mean, it was much different than the last couple of days. The last couple of days have been very nice for racing conditions. This is a little bit more of a factor, I think, than the other days have been.
They were saying on the images, Joseph Dostal, let's see if he communicates in English with some of his pals. Impressive stuff, though, isn't it? He's come forward a couple of times now.
Yeah, he's a very powerful paddler. It was a very nice race by him.
It's going to be the award ceremony now of the K1 200 women. So he's been cut off, the athletes, obviously. Here we go. 139 is Dostal takes the gold, Paulsen takes the silver, and Rodriguez takes the bronze. Czech Republic, Denmark, and Spain. So times slightly down from last week, but still pretty good, though.
Yeah, especially for Joseph and Renee. They really had a hold on that race pretty much the whole way, it looked like.
So we are going to see the Swedish flag being raised, which is great news for the country and personally for Linnea Stencils, who is really putting in a lot of effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present the medalists for the women's K1 200 meters event.
Dame I gospodo, predstavljamo vam osvajače medalje u disciplini K1 200 metara u ženskoj konkurenciji.
As always, the ICF anthem. So we've seen different athletes take the top of the podium for each of the 3 races so far in the season in the K1 200 meters for women. Familiar faces of all these athletes. Marta Voltakevic, who I must stress had 5 months off after the Olympics. She had an arm situation, and she's now coming back to her best. She's one of the few athletes that turned up in all 3 World Cups, and she's becoming stronger in every single World Cup, so watch out for her in the end of the season. So the dignitaries lining up to hand out the medals. So 3rd place going to be Marta Voltakiewicz from Poland. Won an enormous amount of medals in K4, K1 200, even dabbles in the K1 500 sometimes. She's been in every single crew break. There's 5 or 6 athletes that have really been holding Polish paddling together. Spela Ponomarenko-Janic has medals at the world level going back quite a few years in the K1 200, also medals frequently this season in the 500. Well done for her from Slovenia. And we're going to have a big cheer here. First taste of the top podium in the World Cups. Linnea Stencils just scraped through into the Rio Games and made the final. Came through the qualifications in Duisburg last year. Only 22 years old, and said my target was always going to be Tokyo. So very much Rio was a bonus, someone to watch out for. Next event, Ian. How do you see them lining up?
With the big wind, I think some of the bigger crews will do a little better. You know, France with Gubel and Vignet might do very well, but I think the Canadians, Tarling and Varga, are going to do pretty well in this race. But Mark James and Drew Hodges, also from Canada, should do very well. But it's going to be a tough race. I mean, a lot of things change when there's headwind, so.
We see the two silvers from Portugal. They're not related, they're in the same club. Helder's come from 200 meters, Nuno more traditional, so they've been trying to come together. They expect them to have the fastest start.
Yeah.
Shamshurin and Pavukin, obviously great servants to the Russian cause, have been around many, many years, see how they're going to combine together. Iran, it's great to see them putting some good athletes. They had Adel in the final of the C1. He was right in the mix until the end.
Yeah, Ireland has a very powerful technique. They might do very well with the headwind. And Japan's coming along too with Takarone Tome did pretty well, and he made the B final for C1 200. So
Uzbekistan, Gosam Kochnev, who has been a servant for the C1 disciplines for many, many years, and Sarek Mikhamov. And then you mentioned the Canadians, Mark James, Drew Hodges, and Roland Varga, Mark Tarling. Is there any sort of competition here? Is there any trials or anything? Or is this
no, there's no trials. They're just figuring out which C2s work for them best. But I mean, both C2s are obviously doing very well.
Save 500 meters. And the wind, as you can probably hear in our earphones, is switching around a little bit at the moment.
It's getting a little more serious. It looks like it's a righty's headwind, which might affect some of the C2s, depending on who they have steering in the back of the boat.
And you and your brother, Gavin, you've had some experience in this. What's Gavin doing this season?
He's doing some schooling, getting educated, and he's going to come back to paddling when he's through with a couple classes.
So might we see you at the World Championships?
Yes, and
excellent.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
And you said you're spending some time in Europe in the next few months.
Yep, Europe and Canada. So should be a good summer.
So, what we've just mentioned is, if it's confusing you at home, I must apologise because we didn't actually go into that. We're going to see the B final first of all.
Yes.
Which I didn't actually stipulate. And this is a case of, due to the changes they need to make for the organisation, the organisers here in Serbia have decided to stick in a B final. So we're going to see the C2 men 500 B final, and then we're going to see the big guys stepping up for the A final.
Yes.
But it's good to see the strength and depth of here, instant combination.
Yeah, it's always nice when you can fill in a couple more finals because you have enough athletes in a doubles race. That's really cool for the sport.
And a lot of athletes have been talking about, especially the sprinters, have been talking about the impact of the concrete sides of this course, and then the waves ripple back into it.
Yes.
Does that come into play with you guys?
Yeah, some of the bigger crews will be less affected by that because they can kind of plow through the waves a little more if they've got good balance. But it definitely comes into a factor when waves hit concrete. All they do is bounce back. So it's a little bit of a tricky finish line.
And the tricky line, I was speaking a few minutes ago to John Schofield, and he was saying it's actually quite unique here in the fact that the last 20 meters you don't have any indications of where you're going over the line.
Yeah.
And we've seen a few athletes, I had the impression they were pulling out because it was easy, but maybe they're just confused.
Yeah, you never know, but hopefully everyone knows where the finish line is. That's kind of an important one to know.
The pictures you're actually seeing is it's a lake that's just about 5 kilometers from the real heart of Belgrade, and it's a huge popular weekend. I think 300,000 people apparently come over here and just have a bit of fun in the weekend. And so we're sharing the venue. We have the permanent fixture at the end of the lake, and looking up the lake, there's lots of people who are taking advantage of the 30 degrees and lovely sunny conditions.
Yeah, traffic and parking on the island today is a nightmare.
Well, you should have come in with us at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then it was fairly clear stuff. But certainly it's a great facility to have, and the athletes apparently have had, I don't know about yourself, but they really enjoyed the fact that we're quite close in and there's lots of places to sit down and chat with the family and chill out.
It's been a great World Cup. It's a great, the surrounding part of the races is really nice. You can kind of relax and feel a little normal and then go and do your racing. So it's been a great World Cup. I think everyone's very happy.
And the way they've set up your village is that your athletes' village almost is you have your complete privacy at the same time, so no one's going to come and disturb you, but you can join the public.
Yes, which is nice because you can pick and choose what you want, when you want.
Well, here we go. As I stressed, it is a B final, so we have a chance of some of the athletes that are trying as hard as the others, but not quite the form at this time of year to make it through. So at the end, just talking about how the season runs out, we've now had 3 World Cups in a row. That, to my eye, must be quite exhausting.
It's quite exhausting, and it's hard going back to training after having that much time resting, not training, and racing. So when you go back to training, you always feel a little bit off. But it's a great way to start off the season and really find out where you are and what you need to improve on.
And well done to the, I don't know how many are, maybe about 20 athletes who've done all 3 World Cups. The reason that it was 3 in a row, normally they try and have a gap, was that in Montemor, in Portugal, they had to change the date because it just happens that the Pope was in the area on the proposed weekend before, and all the hotels were booked up. And so the Pope took priority that weekend. But it has meant that a lot of the teams had to take a choice, because throughout the season, a lot of teams will go to 2 events, 2 out of 3.
Yes.
And the mechanics of driving 3,000 kilometers down to Portugal was a bit too much for some teams. But you are picking us up live in Canadian TV, and we just mentioned we do have 2 crews in this race. Roland Varga, Mark Talling, Mark James, Drew Hodges. How does the Canadian system set up? Do they all train together, or do they all hate each other, or how does it work?
No, they're Canadians. They're good guys. They all train in Florida for a big part of the year together. Mostly the whole team is together training in Florida under the same regimen. So it's fun. They all know each other. They all train with each other in different team crews and in C1s, and it's very competitive. They've got a good system.
But yet to find the perfect combination.
Yeah, that's what the World Cups are for.
And Ben and Gabrielle, are they stepping aside this year?
Yes, I believe they're both getting into school and kind of joining the real world after 2 very illustrious careers.
Well, here they go. They are off, and we see absolutely flying start from Helder Silva, who always thinks he's doing the 200 meters, unfortunately. So he normally doesn't manage to keep it going, but with Nuno Silva in the back, might do something.
That's going to be hard to maintain in this headwind, but they've got their technique going very well together. Look very powerful and connected.
You see their French giants, Mathieu Goubel and Romain Bournier, in lane number 3, also paddling their hardest. Belarus, they've really managed to put a real strength of depth in here at the moment in lane number 4. Sananovic and Alekashvili are putting forward a great performance.
Yeah, Belarus has had a great World Cup 3. done very well in a bunch of different events.
Race number 168.
Well, they've already passed the halfway mark.
Looks like Russia's going to have something right here at the end.
This is the B final. Kirill Shamshurin, Ilya Perukin, who are the most experienced athletes in this field today. At the top of your picture in lane number 2, with Belarus in 4, and Portugal still holding in there.
Please come to the start area.
Canada, lane number 5 and lane number 9. They're off the pace, but they're both matching each other straight for straight. Coming into the last 50 meters, Russia in lane number 2 have had the lead, but they're going to be caught.
Oh, it's going to be close.
It's really close. 3 in a line. And again, it's so difficult to call. Any calling we've been doing so far has been wrong, to be honest. Well, they're showing the Russians, which with 10 meters to go was certainly in it, but Belarus and Portugal.
4 minutes to start.
Yeah, it looked like Belarus had a little bit more of a top speed coming into the finish, but Russia was ahead, so that should be very interesting to see what the results are.
In your lane. 6 and 1.
Well, we're yet to have any indication of the timings. There's Nunes and Helder Silva, who held it together really well because they absolutely flew out of the blocks.
Yeah, they had half a boat after 3 strokes. That was really impressive to watch.
But many of the real speed boys don't have much of a choice, in fact, from the canoes, as C1 is 200 meters doesn't exist anymore in Olympic level.
Yeah, it's a hard turnover for all of them. Any of them who are fast in other events this year should be given a big round of applause.
Martin Fuchser, Helder Silva, well done.
And Stefan Curie, too, from Germany, who did pretty well in the B. He won the B final in the C1000.
Did you think the conditions affected things?
Today, yeah, well, we'll see right here. Looks like Russia got it, but second and third is very hard to tell.
So this is the B final, and we're just about to see the A final.
Yeah.
In the A final, we'll concentrate on this because there are some more familiar names, I guess, in international fields. So I suppose the standout athletes, obviously from the Olympics, are Sebastian Brendel and Jan van Drie.
Yeah, they're going to be. They paddle. The way they paddle is very good for this win today, so they should be strong. But Kazakhstan and the Russian crew are going to be very strong. The Spanish crew is probably going to pull out very fast in the beginning of the race, and you can't count out the Polish C2s and the Moldova C2s ever.
Well, five of our finalists, 5 of the 9 finalists, competed yesterday. Here we go, I'll break off the results. Russia take the B final victory, Belarus second, and Portugal third. So Samshurin and Perukin win the B final in the C2 500 meters. And we're just chatting through the lineup that we're going to see in a minute for the A final in the C2 500 meters. Brendel and van Drie won clearly in Rio, the Olympic Games, in the 1,000 meters, and they've been having fun in different combinations in the last couple of World Cups. Sebastian Brendel, Van Drie, well done. You've turned up at all 3 World Cups. Yesterday they came second in the 1,000 meters. Kaminski, Slominski last week in the 1,000 they put, and the 500 put some exceptional times in there for Poland in the bottom of your picture. Leonard Bard, you can see your favourites going down them. And Sprinter and Nutter, so they're trying out different combinations for Moldova. Uzbekistan, Spain, they were third in the C2 1000 yesterday, and the Yel Melninov, 2 of the 3 brothers, are competing together, Sergei and Timothy. They've raced around many years now, still very young in fact.
Yeah. Lane 8, Luke Leonard and Adrian Bart should have a good start too. We'll see what happens as the race goes on.
So Kaminski and Slominski, light paddlers. Will they be blown around a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be hard for them being lighter than some of the other boats in the rest of the field, but they paddle so well with their legs that they might be able to just power right through it and be connected enough for it to matter a little bit less.
So the Germans, Olsen Kretschner, who won the C2 1000 yesterday, are not competing today, but we do have the second and third places. And here they go, they're off. That was just a picture of Uzbekistan in your frame with the Yemelyanovs and Brendel and Vandry. Do they look good?
Yeah, they look like they're really giving the first 150 a good push. They might be in the lead.
Well, you've seen all the athletes. At the bottom of your picture, it is the two Polands, Matthias Kaminski, Vincent Szyminski. Their story is they were separated for 3 or 4 years, and they came back a few weeks ago, and it's absolutely gelled. Top of your picture, Moldova also looking to... they're looking good so far.
Yeah, they're looking very strong, very connected with their legs, nice reach. Looks like...
Well, they're up on the split. As you can see on the screen, it's Moldova who are taking it out.
Yeah, they look very, very strong.
Already into the last 200 meters. But there's well, 6 boats in a line coming up from the naked eye.
It's like Moldova and
Spain. We haven't mentioned Spain. They were third yesterday. Vallejo and Sierra in their white boat. Top of the picture, it's the second Polish pair, Warniak and Gluznov, who were good together, are looking like they're taking advantage of the little bit of protection that's been offered now with the crosswind. But no doubt about it, coming into the last 20 meters, it's the Polish team who are going to take it from Moldova. So it's a certain advantage there, lanes 1 and 2. With Kazakhstan, looks like it's taking the third place. Because there is quite a protection when the wind comes along. If you look at the flag at the end, it's coming into our faces here on the finish tower. There's a whole row of trees, which I think Montemor would love to have, that are quite high, protecting the side of the course. That was the A final.
It looked like Kazakhstan got in there for third place also. But we will wait to find that out.
So the wind's been shifting direction. It comes as a crosswind across a head cross, going from looking down the course from right to left, and now it's almost pretty much blowing down the course.
Yeah, it looks like it's lined up pretty straight now. But it also looks like it has picked up. It's a little more windy. Should be interesting for the 5Ks.
And in a few minutes' time, in about 10-15 minutes' time, we're going to have the 2K4s. So it's going to be a different game to last weekend where we saw a new world's best time.
Yeah.
A different wind, see who really the power guys are. They're going to be absolutely exhausted off that. But you can see on the picture coming through the mid-section of the race. Well, the cameras are focusing on Poland, who certainly crossed the line first. Glasnov had some good results last weekend. Yemelyanov brothers in blue. Well, it looks like they're giving it to Sprintia and Anuta, as we saw lanes 1 and 2. And there's Sergei and Timothy. And that was the A final. Obviously, we've been watching the B final and the A final, with the Spanish boat being taken out of while. And here we go. Poland take the victory in the A final in 1:47. Moldova take the silver medal, and Kazakhstan take the bronze medal, with Spain just missing out this time. Brendel and Vandry 3 seconds off the pace in 6th place. So there's certainly some speed work to be done.
Yeah, really, you can tell just by looking at the water that lane 1 and 2 have a little bit less to deal with over there. But nevertheless, that was a very impressive race from Poland.
Probably an Olympic sport coming up into 2020. It is going to be the A final of the women's C2 500, and this could be really interesting. We don't know what Belarus has to offer, but we suspect they're going to be good.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be very good. The Belarusian women's canoers are paddling extremely well.
There they are in your picture.
They have a double lefty crew, though. That should make steering interesting.
Especially with these windy conditions. That's arguably their second team. Their first pair is in lane number 5 with Alina Nazdrova, who we've seen, there you go, in her cow horns on the front.
Yes.
As she won the C1 500 yesterday.
In dominating fashion, yeah.
Exactly, pulling up close to the line. So they're going to be interesting to see. Virag Bala, Kinsko Takic, every time they go in the water, they put the new world's fastest time on. So their 1:57 is their best time so far. Then we have new combinations for Canada. Nadia Crossman-Serb, who was in the boat last week, but she was a different combination. And Katie Vincent, who is leading the way with Laurence Vincent-Lepointe, who is not competing this weekend in the C2. So Canada at the top of your picture, lane 1, but it looks like in lane number 6.
Hungary?
Very much, it's the Hungarians who won 4 gold medals in Montemor. They won probably 2 gold medals last weekend, but the eyes are on lane number 5 as we have Elena Nazdrova, who is for Belarus, and we're a bit of an unknown quality, but we know they can paddle very, very quickly.
They look like they're kind of staying a little reserved right now. They have a very long stroke. They're very connected with their legs and hips, but it looks like they might be reserving themselves for the finish with this headwind.
So enough length here for their tactics to come into it.
Yes.
And we can only see this getting better and better with the more depth of field, more training, more money coming into it basically before the Tokyo Games.
Yes, for sure, yeah. Looks like it's the center of the pack that's pulling away.
By definition, 4, 5, and 6 the fastest times in the qualifications. And at the moment, it is Elena Nazdrova, Kamila Bob for Belarus. It's going to be interesting to see. It's the first time, really, that the Hungarians, Virag Bala and Kinsko Takic, have been tested this season. They have been at all 3 events, so fatigue might be coming into play.
Yeah, and the wind is picking up too, so whoever has the most technically efficient race right here at the end is going to have a much easier way through.
Well, so far it is the French, we haven't mentioned them, are still within a shout in lane number 2. That's Eugenie Dorange and Julia Calares. But no doubt about who's really making light of this. It's Belarus in lane number 5. And they're really putting in a solid performance. The time's not going to be anything special, but the performance actually is. They're still a boat length ahead of Hungary. Well, 20 meters up, and they've measured their race to perfection. Belarus crossed the line first, Hungary second, and it's the fast finishing Belarus second crew that are going to put fear into the rest of the world. It's the first World Cup they've come to, and they've really said, we are a top team.
Yeah, that was an amazing race. They paddled very, very well.
Controlled the race completely.
Yes.
6, 4, and 2 to the boat control. 5, 6,
Interesting to see what time it is.
4, and 2.
So the Hungarians, they've done a lot to be racing at this level and breaking world's best times week in, week out.
Yeah.
And to still push the unbelievable Belarusian crew to the last few meters is really saying something about how they're performing.
Yeah, they're going to be very tough to deal with in a single regatta at the end of the year when everything's just on the line at one race.
And they didn't have much exposure in Hungary before this, but believe me, the Hungarians, now they realize that they have something quite special coming forward.
For sure.
It's going to make all the difference. So, are we going to look to have another award ceremony? This is going to be the C2 500 men. Now, it's going to be really impressive if they manage to pull this off, because they have to sprint.
Yeah, yeah. They just finished.
And come well. So 5 minutes. There's yeah, it's going to be interesting anyway.
They paddled extremely well. The Belarusian C2 women, that was a great race by them.
Well, they just they come back onto the world map. That's quite fine for international exposure. They're very nervous giving interviews yesterday.
Oh,
it's always
really?
a sign that you haven't been around the international scene that long.
It was a very impressive race from the second Belarusian crew. They double lefty and they still got a medal. So
maybe that explains something. There's at least we've seen 4 top athletes pushing each other along.
Yeah,
and I think for any nation that probably helps quite a lot.
that'd be quite the C4 to deal with in women's canoe.
So in the program here, we're expecting there to be a medal ceremony, but it's going to be really cleverly if they manage to pull it off, because the men in the C2 500 came off their boat. They had to go via boat control, and then have to find their tracksuits.
It looks like Poland's made it at least.
There you can see there's quite a strong wind picking up. We're even having some bits of mist watery coming over and cooling us down a bit in the very well shaded commentary box. Here you go, the results are in 2:05 is Nadrova and Boba for Belarus. Balak take the silver and Belarus take the bronze. That's really dominant display from the Belarus paddling. Two more events to go on the live program, and it's going to be the K4, so we're going to see how they adapt together. There's going to be an event here quite soon. It's going to be the under-23 European Championships. This is a good dress rehearsal for that major event. They clearly held the 2011 European Championships here, but people like yourself, I was really surprised. I was speaking to Kenny Wallace at Wednesday evening. I said, how did you find the course? He said, yes, I do find the course. I've never been here before.
Yeah, I know. No, I had very few friends in the sport who had actually been here before, so I think everyone's had a great time, though. It's been a great World Cup.
And they had a few challenges earlier in the week with the weeds, but they certainly sorted them out, and we don't even talk about that anymore.
They worked very hard at cleaning up the course. Those volunteers deserve a lot of credit.
They've been out 2 weeks before, in fact, setting up all the buoys and everything. And so there's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and all the volunteers and everything.
Yeah, I deserve a big thank you from all the athletes.
A local Serbian TV who've been actually putting on this production. They've had a lot of challenges, so well done for them actually getting some images out in the end. Just having some slow-mos of the top athletes, and those bodies mean that you probably do 25, 30 hours a week of physical work for about 10 years to have that sort of body.
Yes.
And the World Championships in Richichi will be the next major event. We're going to have one more changeover. Thanks so much for coming in here, Ross.
No
and I
problem.
really appreciate it. Thanks for all your expertise. John Schofield has come back from being briefed about all the athletes and everything, I suspect, or maybe having a cup of tea. We'll have to find out. So one more award ceremony before the actual 2K4 races. John, you had a bit of time to step out. Did you go and have a cup of tea, or did you actually chat with your mates? Or?
Yeah, a bit of both. I caught up with Pete the Meat and Liam, and had a little bit of food. And
did Liam think he'd crossed the line close?
He's not the kind of guy that ever calls it when he crosses the line. He knows you can make a bit of a mistake then. He knew it was close.
And what do you say about his performance?
I think he's not feeling 100% today, to be honest, just a little bit under the weather. So he wasn't quite firing on all cylinders, but nonetheless, he just says the racing is getting harder and harder every time across the whole field.
And Pete the Meat Menning, who he's been a bit low-key for the last year or so. How's he?
He's good. He's a little bit frustrated. He didn't get through the transition phase, didn't attack that as hard as he could, and then that let the race go away from him. And again, when the guys are so good, you can't chase them down in the last 50 metres. So I think he's happy to be back in the final after last weekend's results.
And it's all a marker, I guess. Is it for the Europeans or the Worlds, or just for the season?
It's for the Worlds for these guys. You know, the Worlds is the real big deal. It's what everyone's kind of working towards after a bit of a break after Rio. They're all going to want to be back on top form in Tuesday.
Well,
having said that, I think having seen the times from Plovdiv last year, everyone's got an eye on going there to try and get some world record times, because it's a really nice fast course.
So we saw a lot of world records being broken in Moscow 2014, strong tailwind and warm water. Quite a few world best times last week in Szeged. So there's is it various courses are known for having a tailwind and a bit of warm water?
Yeah, I'd say they are. You know, it depends whereabouts, particularly this part of Europe. Over the summer, it really heats up. But it's just a case of getting a little bit of luck sometimes with the wind. You had fast conditions in Szeged, but then other times it was that little bit too strong and the times dropped. So you just need that perfect combination of just about enough wind, but not too many waves.
And in training, do you guys ever go under the world record and keep it quiet?
I wish we had, but no, that's never happened to us yet. In the UK, we're very unlikely to get conditions like you saw in Moscow. You know, temperatures in the high 20s and a roaring tailwind. It barely gets, you know, very rarely. So it gets that hot in Nottingham or Dorney, which are our main training venues.
Tanya Petrovic, karate world champion, is going to be giving out the medals today. It's great they have quite a lot of the local celebrities here. Novak Djokovic has an excuse that he's playing in Paris, I guess, today or tomorrow.
I'm sure he could have popped over.
Well,
no, it's good. They're really supporting the events out here in Belgrade. There's a nice atmosphere here today, and this lake is just a real bonus for the locals. So, you know, surrounded by bars, beaches. It's a really good recreation area, a nice place to do some canoe racing too.
The silver medalists.
so Yemelninovs from Kazakhstan take their bronze medal. Sprinchin and Nuta from Moldova, who have good strength in depth, they take the silver medal. And Poland, well, we were talking before, it was not on the radar. They're arguably their second team, but they had favourable, maybe. You could see clearly in the water here, as we watch here, that lanes 1 and 2 are protected.
Yeah, you can see that again now. There's various bits of shadow caused by the trees along that bank, which are kind of biggest in the last 250 metres, I'd say. So it's like if you get those lanes, you've got to be fast enough to make the most of that luck, though.
Thomas Barnard, Victor Glasnov make it a good weekend for Poland, taking the victory in the C2 500. There's so much to talk about with the next event, which is the K4 Men 500, and there are so many new interesting names in. So we have some of the top 1,000 men. We have some K2 200s that you've been very close to. Belarus lane 6. Pyatchenko, you know what he looks like.
Yeah,
there's all sorts of really top teams going forward.
You know, you got Pyatchenko there. He's the only guy left in the Belarusian K4 of the guys that won in Beijing, the 1,000 metres there.
And he was not too bad in the K2 in London.
Well, he's the only, him and Maknev, the only paddlers that have won Olympic medals in kayak over all the distances, 500, 200 and 1,000. So he's an incredible all-round crew boat athlete. And pretty much, yeah, always in the front of those boats as well, stroking them. So the Belarusians couldn't ask for much more experience than that in the front of their boat today.
A lot of interesting characters as well. We have some real speed for France. Sébastien Joux, Maxime Beaumont, Guillaume de Crochemont, Etienne Hubert. So Etienne's from the, although he's quite fast in the others as well. He's also from the 1000. But Maxime really must add a bit of oomph to this.
Yeah, I mean, so you've got that 200-meter K2 in there from who raced in the games in Rio, and then you've got two slightly more 1,000-meter kind of experts there. But then, like you say, within one athlete, and Maxime, he pretty much covers all the bases in terms of his talents. Similar, I guess you'd say, in terms of an athlete to Tom Liebscher. You know, he can mix it up over 200 meters and 1,000 meters in his K1.
And not bad in the crew baits as well. We'll go on to Germany in a minute because they were just so special last weekend. Czech Republic, they came third last weekend, and they're mixing and matching a bit. So they have Havel Sturm, who's ever present, Spicy, who was in and out of the K4 last year, and Schloof. So that's interesting to see. And then Serbia.
Yeah, Serbia with their 200-meter K2, and then now with Novakovic. He's really going to add a bit of speed off the start, but I think for them, it's can they keep it going is going to be the question.
Well, in the heats, they look really lackadaisical, which they often look quite relaxed.
Yeah.
And then suddenly in the semi-finals, they won and look really impressive. Well, they're off as we can hopefully catch up with them. There's 400 meters to go. Germany in lane number 5.
It's hard to tell from this shot now. It looks like the Czechs are a fair amount down.
So it's
Germans
Serbia,
right up there, and Spain as well.
Spain, they came second in Szeged. They'd swapped one athlete as Garotti out and Arvela come into it. But they're now 200 meters to go, and it's a mill pond in the far side, which is lanes 1, 2, and 3, and a bit breezy down the bottom of the lane.
It is, and those guys in the first few lanes are just coming into that part of the race now. And can the French make the most of it? There are top crew in there, and the Czech Republic in there as well.
The battle in lane number 2, France. Lane number 4, Serbia. Germany at the moment are starting to pull away.
They look fantastic. They look like they've almost just gone again. They're just really holding their form towards the line.
30 meters left, and Germany are going to take another victory. Second is going to be France. It's going to be really close, maybe even Serbia coming third.
Wow, that was really close on the line there, I'd say, between Serbia and Czech Republic. The Czech Republic carrying a lot more speed through the line, but it's who got there first is going to be the question. France looked pretty solid there in second place. Obviously, adding Beaumont to the boat has made a good amount of difference from last weekend.
But the Germans, they all have great histories and great stories. Even Max Lemke, who was our commentator yesterday, he's got a lot of speed as well.
Oh, he's got a massive amount of speed. Racing over the 200 metres for the last few years, and he's obviously fit enough to sit in the back of that boat and keep pushing along all the way.
In the end, they won by half a boat length.
Yeah, over this event, that's pretty special. I mean, the gap last weekend to set the world record was big as well. I think more than half a second. It's pretty incredible over this event.
It's interesting to see Ronnie Rao, the fact that he actually did manage to take the equal bronze in Rio, seemed to have add another 3 or 4 years onto his sporting career.
Yep, I mean, he's got good guys around him to help him do that, but he's no slouch. He'll still be one of the engines in that boat. I mean, to go from his first world champs bronze in K2 200 meters in 1999 to the same result again, bronze in the K1 200 meters, in Rio 2016, just shows what an incredible athlete he's been, and no signs of slowing down yet.
No. Well, as he was co-commentating last Saturday, he wouldn't commit to the next 4 years, but he certainly wouldn't not commit.
I mean, he's having fun by the looks of it, which I guess you just keep doing it whilst you're still enjoying it.
So what can we see? We saw them had a good start there, Germany, as well.
Yep, they really kind of shot off the bucket there.
With Spain, I think the whole world needs to get coaching from the Spanish about how to start.
Yes, and I mean, we saw in the 200 meter final, they had 2 guys in the top 5 there. That helps you get off the line as well.
Will that come down to confidence, training, or a bit of both?
I'd say a bit of both. One of the things about starting in a crew boat is you want the boat to be really comfortable when it's sat still. Kayaks aren't stable when they're not moving, so if you're kind of rocking around in the start gate, it makes it hard to put down all your power. So I'd guess they're really comfortably sat in the boat, so they can all deliver a really big first stroke.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like a comfortable boat that I'd want to be sat in if I could.
Fair enough.
Good place to be. but maybe they suffered a little bit from being over on the left-hand side of the course today. Not backing up a medal from last weekend.
Well, Germany won 19.8, so it's one of the fastest time ever.
Yeah.
Take the gold. France, nearly a second back, take the silver, and the Czech Republic take the third place, with Serbia just missing out this time. So it shows it's worth putting a couple of sprinters in there.
Yeah, it seems to be going that way, that you really need the power. And I think what's interesting about this event is we've got we've had the last 2 Olympic cycles where we've had 200 meters as an event. That's basically left a load of really powerful athletes around to make these K4 500 crews from, and that seems to be having an immediate impact onto the times that we're seeing.
Go from the men to the women, where the women we've seen for the last 2 weekends that New Zealand, like we were talking half an hour ago, really put together a great spirit and are moving to the next level. But it's going to be difficult to predict who's going to win in the women K4. There's some of them maybe come to the end of the cycle, some coming through. Germany still mixing and matching. A new team here from Poland with Mikolajczyk and Poliska, who on the water half an hour ago. Have they recovered enough? Canada looking to put forward something special. There's the Australians in there without Ali Bull that I mentioned. She's doing some exams in the Worlds. Belarus, well, there's Vola Kuznetska and a couple of newcomers, so it's going to be interesting to see how they come through. They're consistent in taking medals. Spain have looked good recently.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a hard one to call this, particularly without the Hungarians and the New Zealanders in there. It's maybe a little bit more open. I was a bit surprised the Belarusians went a little bit faster through the qualifications, but maybe they've been saving something for the final. The wind's just calming down a tad as we look at it now, actually.
Serbia, Nikolina Moldovan, Kristina Bedec, Malika Starovic, Navila Moldovan, and they have a lane 2 favourable start. Right at the bottom, Spain absolutely flew out of the blocks. Camera's looking at lane number 2.
Yeah, the Serbians are really going to want to put down a big one with Moldovan and Starovic, again coming out of the K1s from not long ago.
Well, it's even only 10 minutes later than the K4 men, but the water is significantly flatter now.
It is, isn't it? It looks a lot nicer down here.
Serbia and lane number 2 at the top are looking good, but also it is Germany, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, in this event, Germany and Hungary have absolutely dominated for a long time now, and they just carry that knowledge in their paddlers and their coaching teams of how to put together K4s, how to train them, and how to deliver on the day.
But Sarah Guillard for France is leading the ball.
Yeah, she looks good.
She's really accomplished in 200 and 400. Sarah Trollman and Hostens and Leah Jamalot, they've been together for 4 or 5 years as different combinations, so that's going to be interesting to see if they can hold it together. But so far in the white boat, they're certainly leading ahead of Germany.
She's got her shoulders look nice and relaxed. Her shoulders aren't coming up towards her ears, so she's stroking that boat really well. It's going to be a bit of pressure coming on from the far side now, and Serbia coming through, but the Germans actually look uncharacteristically struggling towards the end.
Well, 30 metres to go. No doubt that France are going to hold off for the famous victory ahead of Poland. Germany still some work in progress.
Yeah, and a medal for Serbia there in the women's K4. They're going to be absolutely over the moon with that.
We can see that because the volunteers are slapping hands and jumping up and down, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what all the fans came here to see today. So, yeah, that's really good, and quite an impressive finish from them.
So France, we didn't really call them, or I didn't call them in the beginning, but they looked to pretty much lead most of the actual race, didn't they?
Yeah, and I guess, you know, if you can get out well in these K4 events and then you can relax, that relaxation can help you keep the same speed, but then also not suffer towards the end. So for the same speed, you really want to be expending as little energy as possible, and it kind of looked to me like they managed that today.
So there's been some fast and furious racing today with some surprises and some teams affirming that they know where they're going, and especially the Germans that we saw in the K4 men. They're looking that they're putting some dominance forward. It's going to be interesting to see who develops what and how much time they can actually get together in the next few months, because a lot of these teams have not had many run-outs together.
No, my guess is as well that it's the teams that have done the most preparation over the winter that got onto that train of training for 500 metres K4 that are the ones we see performing now, but they may well get caught up a little bit over the summer if they're not able to push on.
So August is what you'd say, 1, 2, 3 more months to go.
Yep, 3 more months to go, but that German K4 does look hard to beat, it has to be said.
We're now going to see the last medal ceremony for the live transmission, and we're going out on a high. It's going to be the C1 200 women, and the dominant paddler for the last 6 or 7 years has taken the bronze medal. So they're coming to call the last. We're just seeing images of the Serbian team coming out of the water. Well, it looks like you called. You said they're absolutely delighted with their performance.
There's nothing better than to succeed and be on the podium on home soil, in front of your friends and family.
And in a team boat as well.
Yeah. In a team boat, you have those other people around you to share that experience. But I mean, these girls will have sacrificed so much in the way they train and travel around the world. So get to, for them to do it in front of the people that support them to do that will mean a lot to them.
And not to dwell on it, but London worked out quite well for you guys.
Yeah, that was the ultimate experience for us.
How many schools have you visited since then?
As many as I can, and yeah, we're still doing that, trying to inspire kids to take up whatever sports they enjoy.
Is it work? To be fair, is it working well? Because the Brits, you've done a lot of, quite a lot of golds and silvers and bronze in the last 2 Olympic cycles. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, I'd say so. I would say so. Compared to when I was growing up, there's an expectation, understanding that there's lots of different sports available and that British people can succeed in them. So, yeah, I think without a doubt there is an element of Olympic legacy. It's probably not as big as it could have been if it had been better supported, but particularly in women's sport, having the women's cycling team, the rowers, the women's hockey team, having those girls to be looked up to is invaluable. And I think it'll be another 10 years till we really see the benefit of that come through. But I see it when I go into primary schools and see the reaction from kids. They actually realise that stuff like this is within reach. And they watch the Olympics so much that they'll all take a different sport out of it that really inspires them.
Excellent news, and may long way it last. And thank you for supporting water polo. You may recognise one of your best ever players. It's Filipovic, who's going to be giving out the medals. And the bronze medalist, she's been on pretty much every podium in the last 3 weeks. How many races with the heats, semi-finals? It must be more than 20 they've taken part. Of course, Kornikinsko Takac, who's taken the bronze medal today.
Yeah, the women's C1s have really supported this World Cup series, haven't they? And
very much so. From a couple of years ago, it's amazing.
Really good racing across the board.
And for the second time on the podium yesterday, Alena Nazdrova took the gold medal in the 500 and has just taken the silver medal in the 200. That's going to scare a few people. Back to her best. Laurence Vincent Lepointe for Canada is where she likes to be. She has such huge levers, doesn't she, that it's a bit unfair, really.
Yeah, but all shapes and sizes can succeed in canoe, as we've seen many times in the past. But it's impressive that she's staying on top of the podium under a much stiffer challenge than she would have been used to. She still seems to have the mental strength to pull ahead when it counts. And
then last year, if you dig a bit deeper why she doesn't perform, there's always a reason. Like she's hopefully going to go to med school as a nurse. So she might have a couple of sleepless nights as exams or something, or injuries. There's always a reason she doesn't perform.
Yeah, when she's on form, she just seems to deliver, though.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. A long way around. Well, I hope you enjoyed the live action. Live always comes with its upsides and its challenges. We've certainly been very welcomed in Serbia, and next event is going to be for the calendar, the European Championships in Bulgaria. Tell me a bit about the Bulgarian course.
Oh, it's a fantastic course. We use that as our European training base for the last few years. It's really clean water, really hot and fast that time of year. And it's also quite unique in that the water level is quite high compared to the surrounding paths and viewing stations, so you can actually get quite a unique paddler's eye view of the action. So it's really good for coaching and will be pretty spectacular for watching as well.
Fantastic. And then moving on to Chiche, which again, there's been some very fast times there. 23rd to 27th of August. How do you sum that course up?
It's a very consistent course. I've normally raced there a little bit earlier in the year when the temperatures aren't so high in the Czech Republic, but you know, at the end of the summer that water's going to be really hot. So if the wind turns round and you can guarantee all the paddlers are going to be on their top form, it could be some pretty exceptional times to be seen.
Fast times, action. There you see the actual looking down the lake. Just looking at some of the highlights. John Schofield for Great Britain.
It's good to see that leg drive there, isn't it? That's fantastic technique.
Well, there's so much more than these extraordinarily powerful athletes. They have quite big legs on them as well.
Yeah, you want to keep the power and strength in your legs with carrying as little weight as possible. Good to see a bit of nice camaraderie between the French and the Serbian crews there.
I've never seen, in my 5 years I've done it, I've never seen a fight yet.
Oh, no. It's generally pretty good-natured. You know, you're racing people who are pretty similar to yourself generally. You've all got the same love, so it's generally been a very enjoyable experience for me.
We're going to sign off now. Thank you very much for joining us. Your comments will always be well received in the social media at Planet Canoe. Thank you for Serbian TV for putting this regatta together, and John Schofield, Ian Ross, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
The silver medalists from K2 women 500 meter race from Poland, please come to the control tower, the medal ceremony.